and families, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion today on student loan forgiveness and the important opportunity that we hope you can take advantage of. As you just heard, we're going to be recording this session. Also, everybody is going to be muted during the presentation today, but please put your questions in the chat and we'll try to get to them throughout the presentation and then during the Q&A. We will make sure to send out the slides and the recording after the meeting. Also, there is an option for live captioning just down at the bottom right where it says live transcript. If you click on that, you can enable the live captioning. So before we jump into our content, we want to get started with a quick poll to get a sense of who we have here in the room with us and your background and experiences with student loans and the federal public service loan forgiveness program. So we are going to put an address on the next slide. If you could go to the next slide, please. There we go. If you could paste in Mentimeter.com, we put a link in the chat and use the code 1375-3917. We just have a few questions for you and we're going to kind of go over this in real time. So my colleague Julie is going to bring up the slides. Okay, great. So the first question, if you can make it a little bigger, Julie, have you attempted to apply for public service loan forgiveness before? Looks like we're kind of all across the range here with you want to apply, but you're not sure where to start. You have applied, so maybe this will, will provide you with some information so that you can apply again this time with success. And you're not sure if you're eligible. So you are in the right place and hopefully we'll be able to answer all of your questions on this program. Next question. How many years have you been paying off your student loans? Again, we have a wide range. Some of you have paid off for more than 10 years. Others, 0 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, you can see there's a wide range. So again, this is relevant to everybody in this room. Next question. How much do you owe in student loans? Again, a range. Looks like the majority of people have loans between $10,000 and $75,000, with some folks having more than $100,000. So, hopefully this information will help provide some relief with that. What degree were your loans for? Looks like the majority are bachelor's degrees and master or postgraduate degrees. And then last question, we are interested in what fields that you work in. So, this webinar is for everyone in the human services sector. Thank you again for your public service. Looks like we have a lot of people that work in child welfare, administrative work and other, and then a smaller number in child support, child care, and TANF. But we welcome you all here today. Oh, I'm sorry, there's one more question. Thank you for being with us. If you knew your loans could be eventually forgiven under this program, would you be more likely to stay with your current employer, less likely, or it would have no impact? And it looks like the vast majority of you would be more likely to stay with your current employer. So that is great to hear. And again, you are in the right place. And I think that's it for our questions. Okay, all right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I would now like to introduce you to Nikki Hatch, who is the Regional Administrator for Region 8 and Acting Regional Administrator for Region 10 at the Administration for Children and Families, and she's going to welcome us here today. So I pass it to you, Nikki.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you so much for your organizing work on this webinar. I know it took a lot to get this on the ground, and I'm really pleased that you did, so thank you. Everyone, I want to begin by thanking you for the work that you do. You all are public servants, and you have chosen a noble career path that is dedicated to improving the lives of others. Your work is essentially never easy. And if you got into this line of work thinking that it might make you rich, may I suggest you go have a conversation with your college career counselor. I'm going to go ahead and bet that many or maybe all of you got into public service for some of the same reasons that I did. For me, it was a calling to do something bigger than myself, to use my time and whatever talents I might have and the skills that I've developed over my career to make life better for the people and communities I'm part of and all around this country. So let me start by saying cheers to you and to the public service you perform. You don't need me to tell you that the past 2 years have been challenging for all of us, and especially to those of you who, like me, are working in the field of human service. Many of you during the pandemic were all of a sudden called essential workers, which I guess is great, but you always knew that your work was essential. Some of you during the pandemic in particular have put your lives, your health at risk, and that of your families too. And at the same time, there's been more kind of scrutinizing and even second guessing of some of the work that you do, often by people who are sitting comfortably on the sidelines, but all of a sudden have strong opinions about your work, right? You spend your days tackling the complex problems that individuals, whether they're kids, parents, families, and the communities they're in, some of the most complex, challenging problems that they face. And our communities need more of you and need you to be supported now more than ever. And you know, again, you don't need me to tell you because you see it every day. There are really extreme staffing shortages in all sectors of human services right now. And that places an additional burden on those of you who remain in your position. I know you're feeling that burden day to day. So again, let me say thank you for the work you're doing and stay tuned. It's not often that we see something come along that really recognizes the critical nature of your work. But the reason we're here today is to share with you information that acknowledges the important, the essential work that you do. So today we're going to highlight an opportunity to help public servants like you get some relief from your federal student loan debt. Because we believe that investments in public servants are investments in the well-being of everyone, that's what these resources are here today that we're going to hear about. So you may have already heard about the Department of Education's Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, or PSLF. You might have even tried to apply in the past. Some of you in the survey that Mary put up indicated that you have applied. Maybe some of you tried to apply, but it wasn't successful for lots of sets of reasons. So I'm so happy to share with you that the Department of Ed has overhauled the program, both to expand eligibility for it and to make it much easier to navigate. Depending on your circumstances, these changes can be a financial game changer for you. And that's why we're here today with our Department of Education colleagues to share how you all, the human services workforce, can benefit from the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Since the opportunity is time limited, we want to make sure you know about it and get some details about how to access it. So my colleague, Ashley, who I'm going to introduce in just a second, she's going to go into the details of the program, including the changes, and where to find the information that you need to apply. As you are listening, I'm going to encourage you to really perk up for answers to these questions. So you'll learn about your eligibility, so you can be thinking about what it takes to be eligible. Are you eligible? What do you need from your employer? How to apply? How long you have to apply? Because, like I said, there's a time limited window here. And maybe most importantly, where do you go to get the help that you need to get your questions answered? So let's dig in. I am so excited to introduce to you our main speaker. She is phenomenal. You'll see in a minute. Her name is Ashley Harrington. She is the senior advisor to the chief operating officer at the Department of Education in their Office of Federal Student Aid, or FSA. Ashley advises the chief operating officer on policy implementation, operations, external communications, everything related to the $1.6 trillion federal student loan portfolio. Before coming into that role, she served as the Federal Advocacy Director and Senior Policy Counsel at the Center for Responsible Lending, which maybe some of you have heard about. Ashley helped shape fair lending and consumer protection reforms to address racial wealth disparities. And her portfolio included a number of consumer lending issues with a particular focus on student debt reform. She previously worked at the United Negro College Fund, or UNCF, and in the New York Governor's Office. She's the author of articles and reports on student debt, particularly as it affects Black borrowers. She's a frequent media contributor, so now that you know her name, you can Google and read the various places that her wisdom and counsel has shown up. And she's provided testimony before several congressional committees. She got her BA in Public Policy Analysis from UNC Chapel Hill, and also has a JD from New York University School of Law. So if you ever need a New York lawyer, she has been admitted to practice law in the state of New York. Ashley, thank you so much for being with us all here today, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Nikki. I really appreciate it. Thanks for that great introduction. Thank you to Mary for putting this all together, and thank you to everyone for being here. We're really excited about what's going on with the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program right now, and we're excited because of the impact that we are seeing on real people's lives. You heard a little bit about me. One thing I want you to know is that I have student loans. So I know I applied for PSLF. I'm trying to get PSLF. So I know how this process can be burdensome, how it can be confusing. And so we're going to talk a lot today about PSLF. And so we can go to the next slide. Can you hear me? I think I see something that says is not, you can't hear me now? Is it better?
That's better, yes.
I have never been told I'm speaking too low, so sorry about that. So we're going to talk a lot today. I want to start by saying this has had a real impact. So since the Biden-Harris administration has come into office, they have provided so much targeted student loan relief. We have approved more than $18.5 billion in cancellation for 760,000 borrowers. That is real relief, and that includes $7.3 billion for more than 127,000 public service through the improvements to PSLF that we are going to talk about today. Next slide. So in addition to that 7.3 billion, another 1.1 million borrowers have gotten closer to forgiveness, and they've got an average pickup of a year's worth of credit. That's 12 additional months towards that 120 that we're going to talk about. More than a quarter got 2 years or more of additional credit. So even if they're not yet at forgiveness, they are that much closer. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel the way they never have been able to before. Next slide. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the basics of PSLF. We want to make sure we're all on the same page about how it normally works. We'll talk a little bit about this limited PSLF waiver that's got us so excited, that has gotten us to 127,000 borrowers of cancellation. We'll talk about how you apply for PSLF through the help tool, and then we'll talk about some resources. I'm going to give you a ton of information. There will be time at the end for questions, and we're just going to jump right in. Next slide. Next slide. So what is PSLF? At the outset, it is PSLF is a program that forgives the remaining balance on federal direct student loans after a borrower has made 120 qualifying monthly payments under a qualifying repayment plan while working full-time for a qualifying employer. The short way that we like to say that is you had to have the right loan with the right repayment and the right employer. And if you didn't have one of those, then you could not get access to PSLF credit. Next slide. So again, just a visualization. So you have 120 qualifying payments. That's 10 years worth of payments on your direct loans while you're working for a qualifying employer. When you are applying for and receiving PSLF, again, we're talking about normal PSLF. And at the end, you get forgiven and the amount is not taxable income and you move on with your life. That's normal PSLF. Next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we mean about the right loan, the right repayment, and the right employment. So the right loan. So under PSLF, under normal circumstances, these are the eligible loan types. You had to have a direct loan, and that includes consolidation loans, and it does include Parent Plus loans. And we're going to talk a little bit about Parent Plus loans in just a second, because while they are included in PSLF, they're a little bit special in how they're treated in pretty much everything. So we're going to talk about those as well. It doesn't include FFEL program loans. So that's Federal Family Education Loans. These are loans that are, guaranteed by the federal government, but not originated by the federal government. Meanwhile, the direct loans are originated by us. We put them out. They come from the Treasury. When you send in payments, it's going back to us. If you have a FFEL loan, your payment is going from a servicer to a lender like JP Morgan or Wells Fargo. It also doesn't include Perkins loans. These are loans that are originated by higher education institutions, but guaranteed by the federal government. And it doesn't include any other type of federal or private student loans. So you had to have a direct loan. Next slide. And so just for Parent Plus, just want to make it clear. So they're not excluded from PSLF, but they are not eligible for all income-driven repayment plans. And we'll talk a little bit about why that matters in a second. But Parent Plus borrowers, to get access to income-based repayment, they can consolidate, and then they'll have a direct consolidation loan. And then that new loan, because when you consolidate, you have basically a new loan, you'll have access to one of the income-based repayment plans that is called ICR, income contingent repayment. I'm going to say a lot of acronyms today. I apologize in advance. For income-based repayment, you may hear me say IBR or IDR, income-driven repayment. There's a bunch of different plans, but one of those plans is ICR, income contingent repayment. And that's the plan that parents can have access to once they consolidate. It is the least generous of the plans, but it is the one that's available to Parent Plus borrowers. And so Parent Plus borrowers should use our loan simulator. We'll give those links later to make sure that it makes sense for them in the long run to use that to consolidate and go into that program, knowing that it can be less generous than the payments you would have options for otherwise. But if you are a parent and you're in public service, this may make sense for you, and it'll be about your employment, not the student's employment. Next slide. So with the right repayment, so what is an eligible PSLF payment? PSLF payment, it has to be on time. It has to be on a standard plan or any IDR plan. So the standard plan is a normal plan that you're put in as soon as you graduate when you leave school and you enter a repayment. That's the automatic plan. Or any IDR plan, income-driven repayment, or IBR, income-based repayment. And there are 4 of these. There's income-based repayment plan, the pay-as-you-earn plan, the revised pay-as-you-earn plan, and the income contingent repayment plan. I'm sorry for all of the acronyms. Repay, pay, IBR, and ICR are all IDR plans. And those are the plans that are eligible for PSLF in addition to the standard plan. And if you want PSLF, you really want to be on an IDR plan anyway, because the standard plan is based on 10 years. And it's set up such that at the end of those 10 years, you've paid off all the loan, including the principal and the interest. So you actually don't have anything left to forgive. But if you're on an IDR plan, you will likely have something left to forgive at the end of your 10 years towards PSLF. And so that's why you want to be on an IDR plan, but payments made on standard plan do count. So it also has to be for at least the amount due, and it can be non-consecutive. I want to emphasize this because one of the things we get all the time is like, does it have to be 10 straight years? Absolutely not. My favorite thing to say is get your 120 how you can. It can take you 15 years. It can take you 20 years. We don't care how long it takes you. As long as you have qualifying employment and repayment after October 2007, because that's when PSLF was created by Congress, you can get credit for those months. You can do 119, take 5 years off, and then do the last one. It's up to you. You just have to get to 120 however you can. So what is not an eligible payment? A payment that's more than 15 days late. A payment that's made on the wrong plan, so a graduated, extended, or alternative plan. A payment that's for less than the amount due, or a payment made when not required. So for instance, if you're in school, your loans are deferred. If you make a payment then, even if you're working full time, it doesn't count because you're not required to make a payment at that point. Or when you leave school and before you go back into repayment, you have a grace period, right? You're not required to make a payment then either. So that doesn't count. The only exception is this current COVID-19 forbearance. If you are still working for a qualifying employer for any of these past 26 months and were in repayment when it started or entered repayment at some point if you left school, you can get credit for these months. I'm gonna say it again. I know we have not made payments for 26 months. You can still get credit for these months under the COVID forbearance if you were under that administrative forbearance, as long as you were still at a qualifying employer. So let's talk about qualifying employers. Next slide. Or there's one more thing before we talk about that. So just to clarify, you can make multiple payments in 1 month as long as it equals the amount due and it's within 15 days of the due date. So if your payment is $100 a month, you can, and it's due on the 15th, you can pay $50 on the 5th, then another $50 on the 10th, and you've met that obligation for the month in advance of the due date or within 15 days of the due date. So that counts as that 1 month of repayment. You can also do lump sum payments, but it's limited to 12 months or until your IDR recertification date. For all income-driven repayment plans, you have to recertify your income every year because that's what your payments are going to be based on. And so if you do a lump sum, you're limited to a year or the IDR recertification date, whichever comes first. If you do a lump sum, that does not mean you get to 120 sooner. You still have to work those corresponding months at a PSLF eligible employer. I'm sorry, I have a house phone because I'm at my mom's house. Just ignore it. Give it a second. I'm so sorry. I forgot that she had a house phone. Next slide. So is it really annoying? Is it distracting or can everybody hear me still fine? Okay, good. So what is eligible PSLF employment? You have to be working full-time. That's 30 hours a week or the equivalent for a government agency. That can be federal, state, local, or tribal. And it does include the military. It includes all 501c3 nonprofits. And it includes some other nonprofits if they provide a qualifying public service. So that's things like public health, emergency management, early childhood education, and things like that. What it doesn't include part-time work unless you have part-time work at multiple jobs that equals full-time and all of the jobs are PSLF eligible employers. So if I'm working 30 hours a week, but 15 hours a week are at a state agency and the other 15 hours are at a 501c3 nonprofit, I'm working full-time in public service and I can get credit for those months. It doesn't include volunteer work. It doesn't include for-profits. So even if you're a contractor and you're working at an agency or at a nonprofit, but you are paid by the for-profit entity, you are not eligible for PSLF. It's about the employer. We're never going to ask you what you do. We're never going to ask you how much you make. All we care about is, do you work for a qualifying employer? And it has to be one of those types that I just listed.
Actually, can I pause just for a second? Because I've always thought that full-time work meant 40 hours a week, but am I hearing you correctly that 30 counts as full-time for this program in the relief care?
So it's a minimum of 30 hours a week or the equivalent or what your employer considers full-time. And so your employer may consider it 35 hours a week. They have to consider you full-time or it has to equal 30 hours a week if you're doing part-time. Your employer may consider it 30 hours a week. We've heard that some employers will consider you full-time for PSLF purposes, even if they don't technically consider you PSL full-time in other purposes because of, benefits that they can't afford to pay.
For other purposes. Yeah, got it.
Other purposes, right. But they can certify that you are full-time for PSLF purposes. And so that's great.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And it also doesn't include labor unions or partisan political organizations. Next slide. So remember, it's about the employer. It's not about what you do. So it's about who is on your W-2, who is on your pay stub, who pays you every month. We don't care about anything else. We're not going to ask you what you do. We're not going to ask you how much you make. That is not the purpose. We're just going to ask you, who is your employer? You need to sign it, and then they need to sign it. And that's it. And you don't have to have the same employer for that 10 years. You can have 10 different employers. You can have 20 different employers. As long as you have 120 months of repayment that also have of qualifying repayment on those right plans, on those right loans, and you also have employment to match up with that is PSLF eligible, that's what matters. It doesn't matter how many it takes. If you guys submit 15 forms, that's okay. Just make sure you get them all in. Again, we're talking about normal PSLF right now. So I want to keep saying that because there's some things that I'm saying that are going to be different under the limited waiver, but it's still important to know these pieces because the limited waiver ends October 31st, 2022. And after that, the normal rules are going to apply. So you want to make sure you know that. You want to make sure that coming out of the payment pause, and coming in after October 31st, 2022, if you're still in repayment, that you are in an income-based repayment plan so that you are getting them, that you are continuing on the track towards PSLF forgiveness if you're not at 120. Next slide. So there's also something called temporary expanded PSLF, not to be confused with limited waiver that we'll talk about in a second. Temporary expanded PSLF was a program created by Congress about 5 years ago to help with one issue of PSLF, which was borrowers who weren't qualifying only because some of their payments were on a non-qualifying plan. So that includes if you were on an extended or graduated plan, and you could get credit towards TEPSLF. And that was because, over the years, I'm sure you've heard, there've been a lot of problems with PSLF. Before this administration, only about 6,500 people had gotten forgiveness, even though so many more had applied. And while many of them weren't at the 10 years, this was also a crisis of communication, confusion, and outreach to make sure that borrowers know what they have to do to be eligible so that public service can actually get access to relief. And so that's one of the major things that we're trying to fix, is to deal with the fact that for so long, there was a lot of confusing information, sometimes actively given by, folks that you were told to go to for information. And so that's part of this. But this was one piece that attempted to fix that, but didn't fix all the problems that have been prevalent in PSLF. Next slide. So just a reminder that under the COVID-19 flexibilities, if you have direct loans, you are in forbearance due to the payment pause, and these payments are still eligible for PSLF or TEPSLF. It must be urgent. I'm so sorry, but she has a cell phone. Are eligible for PSLF and TEPSLF. But it doesn't matter what repayment plan you were on before the pause. Anytime, any of these 26 months can count as long as you submit a PSLF form to correspond to those months in repayment for you. So you had to have qualifying employment for those 26 months. I think I'm getting really good at ignoring it. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about the fun stuff, the limited waiver, which I hope all of you are really here to talk about, because the limited waiver is how we went from 6,500 borrowers to over 127,000 borrowers getting cancellation this year. Next slide. Okay, so limited PSLF waiver. If you don't remember anything from today, remember that there may be something you need to do by October 31st, 2022, and you should follow up. That's the most important thing I want you to know, that this is time limited. PSLF is not ending. TEPSLF is not ending, though it has some appropriations limits, so it may end eventually, but PSLF is here. But the limited waiver will end October 31st, 2022. So if you want to take part in it, which means it gives you the opportunity to get credit for things that didn't get credit previously, you want to take steps, whatever steps you need to take, and we'll talk about those in a second, to make sure that you can take advantage of this opportunity. Even if you're not at 10 years, even if you're not at 120, even if you're unsure if you're going to stay in public service, it doesn't hurt to submit a form. Just get the paperwork in. It literally doesn't hurt.
Actually, is that to say that if somebody needs to apply under the limited PSLF waiver, start that process by Halloween to sort of lock it in, to kind of lock in their position or their place? Is that right?
Yes, you're locking it in. You're effectively raising your hand and saying, look, I'm working towards PSLF. I want to make sure that I am getting taking maximum advantage of the program and the flexibilities that you all have created.
Even if I just started my qualifying employment, I just got a job as a social worker, apply before Halloween, well before Halloween, and that locks it in, sort of starts the clock for me.
Right, you might as well. And just to be clear, again, it's not going anywhere. PSLF will be here, and no one is required to apply for PSLF or submit forms every year. We do recommend certify your employment annually, just makes it easier on everybody, or every time you change a job, but you're not required to. Some people wait till they get to the 120 payments and they submit like 20 employment forms, or just like 5 or 10, right? So it doesn't matter. But right now, you have to have at least one form, and you have to at least raise your hand and said you're working towards it if you want to get these flexibilities that I'm about to talk about. Thanks. And they're not required. You can still work towards PSLF if this doesn't apply to you. If you're still in school right now, don't think that that this will be over. It's just that this waiver that we're talking about will end at the end of this month. Okay, so under limited waiver, one of the things I told you about under regular PSLF is that only direct loans qualify. And so in order for borrowers to get a direct loan, you had to consolidate. If you had a FFEL loan or a Perkins loan, you had to consolidate into the direct loan program. The problem with that was people, when they consolidated, they didn't get credit for that time spent prior to consolidation, even if they were working for a qualifying employer and they had been paying just fine on time, all the right amounts. They couldn't get credit. They started at zero. Even if they had a regular direct loan, they needed to consolidate it for whatever reason. Once they consolidated, that was a new loan and they couldn't get credit for that time spent prior to consolidation. That's a big deal. So now that is not the case. Under the PSLF limited waiver, it doesn't matter what your loan was prior to consolidation, unless it was a Parent Plus loan. We'll talk about that in a second. So if you had a FFEL loan and you want to consolidate now and you didn't want to do it because you knew you didn't have a direct loan and why was it worth it if you're going to have to start all over again towards PSLF? Now is the time to consolidate because you can get credit for any of those payments after October 2007 that were made while you were with a qualifying employer. So you will no longer start at zero, but you still have to consolidate into that program to get that extra credit. If you had a Perkins loan and you want to consolidate now, you can and still get credit for the time prior to consolidation. If you have already consolidated, so you had a FFEL loan 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and you consolidated and you had to start over, you can submit forms for that time prior to consolidation and get credit for those payments now. It doesn't matter the repayment plan. So under normal PSLF, you had to be on an IDR standard plan. Under limited waiver, we only care if you were in active repayment status. Didn't matter if you missed a payment. Doesn't matter if you were late for a payment. All that matters is that you weren't in school, you weren't in your grace period, and you weren't in default. If you were in active repayment status, no matter the plan, no matter if it was a couple dollars short, no matter if it was late, you can get credit for those months in repayment as long as you also have the qualifying employment. That's major. That's big. Again, it doesn't matter the loan type. It doesn't matter if it was a FFEL loan or a Perkins loan. It doesn't matter if it was Parent Plus. We'll talk about that next.
Ashley, can I ask a question about the various components of eligibility? So if I've been making payments on my loan, I don't need to be employed for a qualified employer at the same time I was making the payments, right?
You absolutely do. So think of it like this. You're trying to get to 120 payments, right? You've been in payment for a really long time. So you've been in payment for 2 years. So you've got 24 months of repayment. These are payments that could count for PSLF because you made them on time. They were on the right repayment plan or just in repayment in general now under the waiver. But until you certify employment for each and every one of those months, they have not converted to PSLF payments. They're not converted to qualifying payments. So you want to get from an eligible payment to a qualifying payment because that's how you get to 120 and that's how you get to forgiveness. And so what is needed is that employment certification for you to certify that, yes, I have been working full-time for an employer and it corresponds with these months of repayment.
Got it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so remember, you're going to have to act now. If you're a borrower and you still have FFEL loans or you still have Perkins loans, or you've never submitted a Pslf form, you are going to have to do that by October 31st, 2022. You have to raise your hand, and that is how you raise your hand by October 31st, 2022, because after that, it all turns into a pumpkin and we go back to normal rules. But right now is the time to apply. It's never been a better time to apply for PSLF and get in the program. And even if you're not at 120, just do it. It's really, really rewarding when you log into the Fed Loan Servicing, who's a PSLF servicer right now, and you can see that you're making progress towards 120. It makes me feel a lot better, and I'm sure it makes a lot of other people feel a lot better too, to think that one day these loans will get forgiven.
And Ashley, just to be clear, there's no risk of applying. If I apply and it turns out I'm not eligible for whatever reason, that's not going to hurt me in any way, right?
So the only thing that would be something just to think about is what happens when you consolidate, which we'll talk about in just a second. And we've recently made it so that is not as concerning, but it is something that some folks may want to think about.
Okay. We're getting a lot of questions about consolidation, so I'm glad we're going to get there.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nikki. Next slide. So again, these are the groups. You may fall into one of these. You may only have direct loans. If that is the case, then you need to just make sure you have at least one PSLF form on file for employment that was after October 1st, 2007. That's what you got to do by October 31st of this year. If you've already consolidated to the direct loan program, you just want to make sure you have PSLF forms on file for that time spent prior to consolidation so you can get credit for those time periods. If you still have Feller Perkins loans, you kind of have the most to do because you got to make sure you consolidate and you want to submit your at least one PSLF form prior to October 31st, 2022. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about Parent Plus loans and the PSLF waiver. I wish I could take it off the hook.
Wish you could just join it into the call, Ashley. I think we'd all be really curious to know who that call is.
We're going to talk about Parent Plus loans and the PSLF waiver. So again, as we talked about earlier, Parent Plus loans are eligible for PSLF. Unfortunately, they are not eligible for additional credits under the waiver. I can just turn off the ringer, Melissa. Thank you. Give me 1 second. I'm going to do that.
While we're waiting for Ashley to do that, some of you have hit the raise hand button. A better thing to do is to put your questions in the chat. We'll pull out at least some of those questions at the end to address, and then you can see the kinds of things that other people are asking.
Okay, hopefully we're done with ringing phone interruptions. So even if you're Parent Plus loans, they are eligible for PSLF, but they can't get additional credits under the waiver. So remember we talked about in order for a Parent Plus loan to have access to an income-based repayment plan, ICR, the least generous of the plans, you had to consolidate. But if you have a direct consolidation loan that only has a Parent Plus loan underneath it, you're not going to get any additional credits under the PSLF waiver for the time spent on that Parent Plus loan. So even if you were working at the same job prior to consolidation, you're not going to get any extra credit. However, if you have a direct consolidation loan that has a Parent Plus loan and another type of loan, so you also have your own student loans in addition to the loans you took out for your child, you can consolidate those together and you would get additional credit for the time spent on that student loan. So it could be worth it depending on if it's older loan or a newer loan, right? Than the Parent Plus loan. But also when you consolidate, because it's still a consolidation loan with a Parent Plus loan underneath, that means you're still only going to be able to get ICR on that whole loan, which is now both your parent loan and your student loan. Just something to think about. So that's the way you get additional credit for a Parent Plus loan under the PSLF waiver. But if it's just a Parent Plus loan, you're not going to get additional credit unless you have another loan to consolidate with it. I'm sure we'll get a lot of questions about this. I confuse myself sometimes when I talk about it, and it was very, very confusing. Next slide. So as a reminder, to take advantage of the waiver, one, you want to confirm your employer is qualified. We're going to talk about that in just a second, how you can look at whether your employer is qualified, consolidate your loans if you need to, and submit your PSLF form or forms by October 31st, 2022. And you just need to submit one. But if you want to submit all of them, it doesn't hurt because, again, why not? Why not get it out the way? Next slide. So just a couple things about consolidation, Nikki, as we were talking about earlier. So when you consolidate loans, your monthly payment may go down, but you may have to pay longer. It just depends because you're changing the balance, right? If you have unpaid interest, your principal balance will go up because it's going to be added to that principal. It's going to be capitalized. Now, if you're working towards PSLF, this may not be a problem because that just means that extra money is going to get forgiven at the end. But if you may not always be working towards PSLF or you're on the fence if you're going to stay in public service, that might be something to think about because it's going to get capitalized and now you're going to start accruing interest on that higher balance. And that's what's going to have to be repaid. Your new consolidation loan is going to have a new interest rate. It's going to be an average of your interest rates. And so it could be higher for some loans. And you don't have to consolidate all your federal student loans. I have like 9 loans and I can consolidate 5 of them. I can consolidate 2 of them. I could consolidate all of them. It's up to me. You don't have to consolidate all of them. You can consolidate just 1 or 2. But keep in mind that once you do consolidate, you cannot undo it.
Ashley, I thought that capitalized was when you use a big letter instead of a little letter at the beginning of the word. Tell me what capitalized means. What does that mean in this context?
That is capitalized as well. But when it comes to interest, that means that whatever your outstanding interest was, if you're like many of us, if you're on an income-based repayment plan and you have a lot of loans, and you're making payments every month, you still may not be making enough to cover that interest. So you still have interest just sitting there. When you consolidate, whatever interest is sitting there is going to be added to your principal balance. And that is your new principal balance that will now start accruing interest. And so you'll have a whole new set of interest on that larger balance. And that is what is meant by capitalization.
Got it. Folks have a lot of individual questions about their specific situation, about consolidation in particular. Are you going to tell us a resource that they should go to start to get some of those specific questions answered or get some advice on that?
Yes.
So folks should stay tuned. All right.
Please stay tuned. It keeps getting better, hopefully. Next slide. So just a flag, the one thing on consolidation is that we also recently announced that not only will it not restart your payments towards PSLF, it also won't restart your payments towards IDR. And on income-driven repayment for plans, you can get forgiveness after 20 or 25 years, longer than the 10 years for PSLF, I know, but it also relates to the PSLF program that we're talking about. So one, we're conducting a one-time revision of IDR payments to address past issues with how we were counting payments. And so now, while they wouldn't otherwise qualify, there are going to be some months in deferment prior to 2013 that will get forgiveness, or every month except for in-school deferment prior to 2013 that was in deferment can get credit towards IDR and PSLF. And months of economic hardship deferment after 2013 can get credit towards IDR and PSLF. This was not true before. It was not even true under the waiver. This is a new thing under the IDR account adjustments. We're also doing a one-time account adjustment to count long-term forbearances toward IDR and PSLF forgiveness. So there was a huge issue with forbearance steering in the program that was really prevalent from a lot of servicers, where they were just saying, you know, don't worry about it, you can't pay it, go into a forbearance. And people were in forbearance for way too long. And forbearance is bad because at the end, it capitalizes. And if you don't have to capitalize, you don't want to capitalize because you're getting extra interest. So we're counting forbearance of more than 12 consecutive months or more than 36 months cumulative towards forgiveness under IDR and PSLF. Now, these changes, that were just announced. And when we announced the PSLF waiver, we still had a while to go to implement everything. And there's still a lot we have to do. The same is true for IDR. It takes a while. There are so many moving pieces and intricacies, so many different parts and entities that have to work together to get this done. So these changes will not be reflected in borrower accounts until later this year, much later this year. But we just want to flag that this is something that is also coming for borrowers. And this is really confusing. And so you don't really have to worry about it for a while. And if you still have FFEL loans and you're consolidating for PSLF, then you'll also get pulled into this as well. And so that's really great. Next slide. So normally Fed loan servicing FIA is the PSLF servicer. So if you're currently in PSLF, your servicer is Fed loan, but many of you may know that they are leaving the federal student loan servicing business. And so as of May 1st, borrowers will no longer go to Fed loan servicing. And when you consolidate, it's going to ask you if you're doing it for PSLF purposes, and then it's going to send you to MOHELA. That's going to be the new servicer for PSLF going forward. If you've heard Fed loan before and you're confused as to why they're not popping up anymore, it's because we are transitioning PSLF to MOHELA, and they will be the servicer starting July 1st. If we want everyone to submit their PSLF forms as soon as possible, and you can do that through the help tool, which we're going to talk about next. And we strongly encourage you to use the help tool, not a paper form, because it just helps your forms get processed faster. Next slide. Okay, so let's talk about the help tool. So the help tool is how you are going to certify employment it's going to help you generate something called a PSLF form. You may also hear me call it an ECF, employment certification form, because that is what it used to be called, but it is no longer called that, but it looks pretty much the same. So it looks like this. This is what the physical form looks like, but you are going to generate it on the help tool, and then you'll have a form that is typed out and looks like this. You can also write it out, you download it and do the paper one, but again, it does not get processed as fast as if you use the help tool to do it. So next slide. So to get to the help tool, you're going to go to studentaid.gov/PSLF. Real simple. studentaid.gov/PSLF. And it'll take you to this help tool landing page. And you'll click start. Next slide. and you'll have to log in using your federal student aid ID. If you don't have a federal student aid ID, now is the time to get one, because that studentaid.gov is the best place for you to get information about your loans and manage your loans. You want to start there. So if you don't have one, go get one. And you need it to log into the PSLF help tool and start generating your forms. So when you log into the help tool, the first thing we're going to ask you about is your employment certification. This is what we're here for. We're here to certify your employment so you can get credit towards PSLF. And so we're going to ask you about your employment history. And the most important thing is, we're not going to ask you for the name of your employer first. We're going to ask you for something called an EIN, an employer identification number, the federal EIN, employer identification number. This is the number that is found on your W-2 or on your pay stub. And you need that number to complete the help tool. You need that number to fill out your form. I cannot say it enough. You need that number. It doesn't matter if you know the address, doesn't matter if you know the name, you need the EIN. And so you can get it from one of those places. You can ask your employer, you can ask someone in HR, but you are going to need that EIN to complete this form. And you want to make sure you have it. And you're going to need it for every single employer that you are trying to get credit for. Next slide. So we made some improvements to the help tool. So once you type in your EIN, it's going to put up whatever. If it's in our system, it'll pop up the name that's associated with that EIN. There are some places where EINs are covering multiple entities, particularly in like state and federal government. If you're working for an agency, that EIN might be for multiple agencies. So you might get multiple employers popping up, and you want to make sure you're picking the right one that coincides with your agency. But if it's just one employer, if it's just one single EIN, it'll pop up one employer. Now, you're using our employer search database. We love our database. We're constantly working to improve it, but it is not the definitive be-all list of all the employers in the US or all the employers that count for PSLF. So your employer may not pop up. It may not pop up at all. And so you may have to put in more information, or it may pop up and say likely ineligible because we've never seen it before. It hasn't popped up in our system. We don't have any information, and we're going to have to look into it. It may pop up as ineligible, meaning we've already determined for some reason that is ineligible. If either of these are the case, you should still proceed with the application, with the form, even if you believe that your employer is in fact qualified. So don't be discouraged. I know likely ineligible is very discouraging, but it really just means undetermined. And so that just means it may take a little bit longer because it didn't pop up in our system immediately as eligible. And so you want to just keep going through the process. Next slide. Next, normally when it's not the waiver, you're going to get this extra page that gives you suggestions about what you need to do for the waiver, but it's going to have less of this under because we have the waiver and where many of the requirements have been waived. Next slide. So it's going to ask you application details, and by that, it's going to ask you, do you have 120 payments or do you not have 120 payments? Even if you think you have 120 payments, if our system thinks you don't, it will not let you put yes. And so you just need to put no. It doesn't affect whether we're going to process your application or at what rate. It's just part of the questionnaire. So if you're putting yes and it's not letting you move forward, put no and continue with the process. Don't be discouraged, because also, it hasn't fully caught up to all your consolidations yet, maybe, but you should still consider with the process. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be considered because you think you have 120 and we don't at the time. Next slide. So then it's going to have your personal information because you logged in studentaid.gov, and with your account is going to be pre-filled, but you can change it if you need to, if there has been an update to where you live or your email or your phone number. Next slide. Then you're going to review it. You're going to make sure everything looks right, that it has all the employers you're trying to certify, that the EINs look right, the employers look right. And then you're going to click save. And then next slide. And then you're going to get a confirmation page. And you would think that that was in, but it is not. What's going to happen then is you're generating forms. If your employers were eligible, you're going to be able to print, sign, and submit your forms. You have to sign your PSLF form, and your employer has to sign it. If your employer wasn't listed in our system, or it was listed as likely ineligible or ineligible, you won't get a form right then. It's going to go to our special PSLF adjudication team, and you will get the form later once it's determined that it qualifies, and then you'll have to get it signed. But
I have a question, but I'm interrupting. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What about if I have an employer or employers previously and like they went out of business or they were bought out, something like that, or they don't exist and I don't know how to reach them? Help me understand those kinds of circumstances.
Yes. So if your employer is out of business or it's from, a number of years ago and they no longer have HR records and so they're not going to sign your paperwork, you can still proceed. Then you're going to need your W-2. And so there's a place on the help tool where you can mark and on the physical application that I can't get this certified. The best place to start is we want as many signatures as possible. But if you really can't get it signed, submit your W-2 with that certification form. Go ahead and submit it with it. If you don't have a signature, don't wait for us to ask for it. Just go ahead and submit it. And then you can get credit based on that W-2. But we are going to need something. You can also get credit if you just happen to have like all the pay stubs for some reason from that job. You can submit those. And that is how you can get credit even if your employer no longer exists or they can't sign your form. So you're going to print it out, you're going to sign it. You can't do digital signatures. You can't do DocuSign right now. We are working on it. Please give us time. Sometime next year it's coming. You either have to do a wet signature where like you literally print it out and sign it, or you can do one of those signatures where you sign on your trackpad or something like that. But you can't even use like the cursive typing font if it looks like a signature. That doesn't work. Trust me, I tried it. They sent it right back and I was very sad. Next slide.
I'm just going to reiterate that. So it's got to be an actual signature, none of the digital tools that we use, for other financial transactions at this point, but that's coming.
Right. So this is a handy chart that really lays it out. So it can be hand drawn on your signature pad, mouse, or finger. Can't be typed using cursive font. You can use that scanned photo of a signature that was hand drawn on paper. You can't use like a DocuSign digital certificate based signature, or you can use the tried and true, print it out, sign it with a real pen and send that in. And then once you do that, you'll be able to either mail or fax it in, or if you already have Fed loan servicing, you'll be able to upload it online. And soon, once we fully transition to MOHELA, you'll be able to upload it to MOHELA if you have MOHELA. And even later on, we're going to make it so you can upload it to studentaid.gov. So we're constantly working on improvements and they are coming. Next slide. So once you do all this and you start working towards PSLF, you're going to want to track your progress. You're going to make sure you're going to want to have to log in and say, oh my God, I'm so close to 120, or I have so long to go, but I can see the light. And so you can do that on myfedloan.org once you have Fed loan and you have PSLF started, or later on MOHELA, it'll tell you how many payments you have. If some payments don't count, what you need to do. Next slide. See, it'll tell you this could count, but your employment's not certified. So you want to go ahead and get that in. Next slide. You'll also be able to find it on studentaid.gov. When you log in on your dashboard, it'll show you your PSLF months. Next slide. I'm going to speed up a little bit because I think we only have a few minutes left. And so now we're on PSLF information and resources, and I can stay for a few minutes. I don't have to leave right at 4:30 for questions. So definitely want to have time for questions. Studentaid.gov/PSLF waiver is your best place to get information about the waiver. Studentaid.gov/PSLF is where you go for the help tool. And if you just want general information about PSLF and how it normally works, because you know that after October 31st, 2022, it goes back to the way it was before, you want to go to studentaid.gov/public service. And so now let's do some questions. Thank you, everyone.
Ashley, I know, first of all, that was amazing. That's a ton of information that you digested really beautifully. So thank you. And I know that you aren't in a position to give financial advice to anyone on this call. In a generic way, though, is this process designed so that an individual borrower can navigate it, or should folks feel like they need to go get a specialist or an accountant or someone to do this for them?
No, we want you to be able to navigate it. I mean, I think we're always working to improve it. And obviously there are ways to improve it and make the borrower experience even better, but you can do this on your own. You go to studentaid.gov, there are links to say where you can consolidate. You'll log in on your dashboard. You can see exactly what type of loan you have. It'll say direct loan, or it'll say FEL loan, or it'll say Perkins loan. And so you'll know what type of loan you have and what you need to do then to get into the PSLF program and to get the credit under the waiver. And you can consolidate right there. You can do your PSLF help tool and do your form right there. And so studentaid.gov and the help tool are going to navigate you right through that process and give you all the information that you need. So no, this is something that you can do on your own. But if you are struggling, you can always call your servicer. You can also call our wonderful ombudsman office, which we have someone on here today, Kaylin from our team, who is helping borrowers all the time. But you want to start with your servicer, they can help. And then you can also use our feedback system and our ombudsman folks if you're still struggling. And the one thing that I'll say is you never have to pay for help. You have already covered the cost of getting help through your servicers, through taking out the loan. So you don't have to pay anyone to help you with your federal student loan.
Great. Kaylin, can I ask that you put in the chat contact information for the ombudsman so that folks can have that? That might be of use to some folks.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much. Ashley, what have you seen as the most common mistakes that happen in this process? Where are the landmines that we can help people avoid?
I think the landmines are definitely the issue with the signatures. Make sure you're having the right type of signature. You know, and I think so part of the waiver is removing some of those landmines. So I think we've removed a lot of them. But what I think we're really struggling with right now is the fact that some people still don't know about PSLF and that some people still think it's not for them. And so that's what I'm most concerned about now is I want to make sure that everyone knows, even if you have a FFEL loan, even if you have a Perkins loan, you can get PSLF credit. I think the other landmine is the Parent Plus piece. It's a little bit confusing. And so you definitely want to be thinking about that, using our loan simulator tool, another tool on studentaid.gov to make sure it makes sense for you. We have so many tools on studentaid.gov where you can simulate loan repayment under each of the different repayment plans that we talked about, and you can make the best decision for you. Not getting assigned if you can't get a signature, making sure you have that W-2. You can download many of them on the IRS website. Some of them you may have to request. I had to send in a form to request it, and they're gonna mail it back. So that, and those things take time. So I think also getting frustrated with the fact that, some things take time. If your employer's on our system, it's going to take time for us to adjudicate it. If you need to get some extra forms, it could take you time to get the signature. It could take you time to get your W-2. So give yourself enough time to do what you need to do and to make sure you understand your next steps.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing is don't wait, get started. If you feel overwhelmed, take the first step first, which is to go to the resource tool. Because what we're talking about can save people literally thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, money that can go to the purchase of a home or, any other kind of investments that people want to make in themselves and their families.
That's exactly what we're talking about. And under the waiver, some folks, not only did they save money, some folks got money back. When we did the waiver, if it turned out they had made extra payments on their direct loans, you can get some of that money back. That's exciting because when has the student loan program is sending you money back and you're not sending them money? That's really great.
Ashley, this is fantastic. I heard you say that you're able to stay on the line for a couple more minutes. And I know that we've got questions getting responded to in the Q&A. Mary, and you've popped online. I bet you've got some information for folks about how to get questions answered.
Yes. And thank you, Ashley, for that incredible presentation. You gave us so much information in such a short time and made it really accessible and understandable. And I can't wait to hear who kept calling your mom. We're all gonna have to let everybody know. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining. I wish that we could have gotten to all of the questions. Hopefully, Kaylin was able to get to the ones in the chat. We're going to be sending out a list of resources, and we're also going to be creating a page on the ACF website that's going to have PSLF resources and the recording for the webinar. So please check back for information. And then of course, we put the link to the Department of Education help tool and landing page for PSLF in the chat, but we'll be following up with information. And, I know a lot of people will need to go, but if we want to stay on, Ashley, sounds like you could stay on for maybe another few questions. And then, if you can stay, please stay. Otherwise, we'll try and get a couple more questions in.
Lots of folks interested in who called your mom. I did see a couple of folks ask about AmeriCorps. Is that a qualified employer?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I saw some questions about contractors as well.
Well, let me just say for AmeriCorps, if you were also like you can do an AmeriCorps deferment. And so that if it's like if it was an economic hardship deferment, right now that doesn't qualify. That is something we're looking at under, we're also doing a negotiated rulemaking to like make PSLF better long-term beyond October 31st. But there is some intricacies there around AmeriCorps that you just want to check into, and we can send you some more information about that.
Okay, great. And also contractors, Mary, I saw the same. So lots of folks work in human services, but for a contracted agency as opposed to a government or nonprofit actor. What about those employers?
Fortunately, if your contractor is a for-profit entity, even if you're working in that government setting or that nonprofit setting, your employment doesn't count. It's again, because it's not about your job, it's about the employer. So if you're contracting with a nonprofit and they're your employer, that works. But if they're a for-profit, unfortunately, they don't count.
Great. And if one of our team can continue to put the link in a couple times about that tool, that would be great. And Kaylin, if you can put your contact, that email again, so that folks don't have to scroll through.
I also see a question about I've seen a couple questions, if I'm still in school, can I apply for forgiveness?
So if you're still in school and maybe you're in grad school, so you also have some undergrad loans. So when you're in school, you're not required to make a payment. And that also means you can't consolidate. So what you would have to do if you're trying to consolidate like some grad loans with some undergrad loans, which could be beneficial to you under the waiver, because that whole consolidation loan is going to get credit from the time spent on the undergrad loan as well. So that could be great. But in order to consolidate them together, you would have to call your servicer and opt out of that in-school deferment, because that will allow you to consolidate, and then you could get and then you can start and you can get all the time toward forgiveness. But you would literally have to opt out of that in-school deferment to consolidate those. Does that make sense?
Ashley, another question about a qualified employer that I'm seeing. What if I work for my state university? That would be a nonprofit, probably, right?
Yeah, and it's a state entity. So yes, institution of higher education, as long as they're not a for-profit college, if it's a nonprofit university or a state university, those will qualify.
Great.
How about a couple more? I have one good one. My husband also has student loans and doesn't work for a qualifying employer. Would this hurt or help us if we put our loans together?
So one, you actually can't put your loans together anymore. We don't do direct spousal consolidation loans anymore. That no longer exists. And if you have a failed spousal consolidation, you actually can't consolidate. You can't get into direct loan program. So we don't make direct spousal loans anymore. Okay. But your loans are your loans. While you could be talking about, when you're in repayment, you're going to have to count your spouse's income unless you're filing separately and you use the pay plan. But your loans are your loans, and so your employment is your employment, and it'll be based on your employment.
Thank you.
I see a question about if a parent co-signed a loan for their child, do those loans qualify?
So if you co-signed it and it's a private loan, no, because no private loans get credit. This is a program for federal student loans. If it's a parent plus loan, which you took out, you can get PSLF with those caveats we talked about earlier. If you just had to co-sign for a student to help them get the loan, the loan is still in their name, and so it'll be about their employment.
Okay.
But that's if it's a federal student loan. If it's a private student loan, again, it does not qualify.
Private loans don't qualify, regardless of your employer duration.
And if you previously had a federal loan and you refinance into the private loan program, you can't undo that. You are out of the program and you can't get PSLF.
Great. How about one last question? Do active duty military need to apply differently than civilians?
That's a really good question. So we are working to make it easier for our service members to apply. We're working on some matches with DOD, and so you can get credit for deferments or forbearance that are military related. We have made some changes where you can submit your DD 214. If you're in the military, you know what this means. I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but you can submit that instead of your Pslf form. And so you don't need to get a signature. We know it's hard for folks in the military to figure out who signs it, what to do. So you can submit your DD 214. We are also working later on to be able to take people's SCRA printouts, and we're working to automate it so that later this year, if you are in the military, you actually don't have to do anything because we're going to get it directly from the DoD and you can get your credit. So stay tuned for that.
Great.
Ashley, let me close out our time together by saying again, just a deep, heartfelt thank you to you. One, for spending this time with us and digging in on all of these questions. But just in general, I hope they issued you a cape with this work, because it really feels to me like you are the superhero flying over, you get relief, you get relief, you get relief. And it's just it's so needed, and a huge help in the human services field in particular, but for public servants of all kinds. So thank you for the work you're doing. And again, for sharing your expertise with us today. And folks who were able to stay on the call.
I just get to have the fun part of telling people about it. There's so many people working on this.
Yeah, you feel a little bit like Oprah, right? Wonderful. And those of you who are remaining on the call, thank you for your time and attention and for asking such good questions. And again, thank you for the work that you're doing in public service. All right, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.